We both know I do a better job of this than you.
So what did you think of the trailer?
I'm not one of the people, and do you ever feel guilty that you're part of the discourse? You know, us doing this nonsense. The internet has become just a big old hole of people just shitting on stuff before it has a chance to happen.
Yeah.
And I have to watch that with myself. I'm not one of the people, because such a knee-jerk reaction, I'm sure you've seen online, people hating this. And and all we've seen is 2 minutes of it.
Yeah.
I'm not that. Is it what I, of course, would want? Maybe not. However, they were pretty upfront. I think they tried to get out in front of it. James Gunn was like, it's not exactly what you're thinking. It is. And they kept saying it's like True Detective. It's like Green Lantern in a True Detective form. Even with all those warnings before stuff got released, there's still people like going, what the fuck? A lot of people aren't following. There are a lot of people out there who don't sit there reading advanced stuff. And so I could see if you were like a mild Green Lantern fan and you hadn't heard what James Gunn or anybody had said about it, and then you see this, you'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So people are really angry. Where I'm at is, I'm going to wait and see.
Yeah.
Things I like. I like the casting.
Oh, yeah.
Across the board. I like the concept. Of course, the training of Jon Stewart is a great way to bring people in anyway. It could have been the training of Hal Jordan, but I get it. Hal Jordan in this instance, in this universe, is the grizzled elder. He's already done all the, which means we'll never have young Superman standing next to Hal Jordan, young Hal Jordan. Okay, whatever. But so all that is solid. I like the grounded stuff as long as it doesn't stay there all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people are afraid of, because they're like going, in that trailer, which we'll talk about, there is a scene of him flying. He takes off.
Yes.
It's similar to the way they did Guy Gardner. One thing that does bug me a little bit, and this is totally, it's just visual. It has just about the aesthetics. And John rolls his eyes. Again, anytime I go, but what about? John's like, oh, Jesus. But I get it. I am that nerd. Why isn't there like a little green aura around them when they fly? That's just from the comics. It's like, if they're just taking off, the ring is the source of everything. So a green glow of some sort seems necessary.
At least at the onset of something happening, right? Is that
right?
How it's done? Yeah.
Yeah, and especially flight, that is powered by the ring. And in the comics, they go so far as it's not just even like the aura. There'll be like that trail of green energy as they're flying off.
Yeah, so that did bug me a little bit in Superman too. I was like, where's this thing? Okay.
Yeah, like Guy Gardner making all those constructs pop up, you know, like the hands, the flipping them off and all that stuff. That's awesome. But it's like in the comics, you see the extension. Like it starts at the ring. Then if he's putting that underground, it's like you'd think that would go down under the earth and then these hands would pop up. But it just looks like all he has to do is kind of think and green hands pop up. And I'm like, doesn't it connect to the ring?
Yeah.
I mean, that is the nerdiest thing. And people are already turning this podcast off because that's far too like going,
I did see when this debate was going on, I did see some people posting examples in the comics where there wasn't a little green connecting beam to whatever construct he was creating. Like, all right. And again, with him flying without a glow, I think that's also been seen. Depends on which iteration of it, but that's the version where you know, especially those of us who grew up with Super Friends, there was always a glow.
I know. Maybe they'll do, and in the not good movie, in the not good Martin Campbell movie, he was glowy every time he'd take off and that kind of thing.
And the suit was a construct.
Well, okay.
Yeah. Was it?
We're not to the but we're not to the suit yet.
That's that's really my only complaint. We'll get there.
Well, we still don't know the plot, and there's still the theory, but I don't know, the theory of maybe they're investigating the murder of like Alan Scott. Okay, that would be a huge, and I don't think
it seems a little wish fulfillment-y.
Yeah, a little wish fulfillment-y. But what I did like about that idea is we see a lantern in John's hand, and it looks very different from what we normally see in the comics. And I was thinking, oh, what if that is like Alan Scott's? Because he is the odd one out. Like he never had guardians. He created his own lantern out of the thing. And then the suit in the closet? What if that's not Hal's? What if that's, again, the odd man out, like Alan Scott's possible costume?
Maybe, yeah.
Without a big purple cape.
Well, let's go ahead and get to that, because I was saying that was my only complaint. But again, we don't really know exactly what we're looking at. We're assuming that it's Hal Jordan's suit in his closet, and you can see. I didn't notice this at first, but people who have slowed it down and enhanced the image, you can see that there's two garment bags hanging next to it.
Oh,
and you can see through one of them that there's another suit, and at least one of the garment bags has another suit.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, so there's more than, it's like a closet of suits, and that's just one of them. But again,
if it turns out it's just the Alan Scott thing, it's just, again, that's
sure, just a theory, right?
If it is in Hal's closet, that does bring up the questions. Like, I always thought, as even in the other movie and all the comics, the suit is generated by the ring.
Yeah.
So the idea of it being a physical thing in his closet that he would have had to put on, I'm like, what?
Well, and again, this image has been going around. Apparently, in the Silver Age, it wasn't always a construct. There's a panel I saw of Hal Jordan with his suit hanging behind him in a closet.
Yes, so there's in the comics, especially early days, when Green Lantern and the Flash. Actually, the Flash is the first. That was the start of the Silver Age, was them taking their Golden Age characters and saying, what if we just... Is this Julius Schwartz? Is he the guy that was behind it? I believe he was. Who said, the Flash was always great. Love that character, Green Lantern, but we got to reimagine them because these are cool kids of the late 50s. And so they kept the names, and they completely came up with new identities. Think about being a nerd back then. If there had been an internet. Sorry, not my Flash. I don't know this Barry Allen person. I happen to know of a Jay Garrick who was exposed to fumes from hard water. Hard water. I don't know how it made him fast, but it did. Shut up. He had a helmet that had no visible means of staying on his head, and yet he ran at super speed. How did the helmet stay on? We don't know, but I don't know this Barry Allen. And I'm sure it was the same with Green Lantern. Like, where's Mr. Alan Scott with the red, the green, and purple? That man knew how to dress.
The thing I love is that these conversations happen somewhere, but they're just not recorded because there was not recorded.
Because
people didn't have tape decks, they didn't have internet.
Fandom also changed. The early days of Fandom were in the 50s, where the little kids who started with Superman and all that, by the time they're teenagers, their superheroes are already kind of dying out in the 50s because of, superheroes were dying out. It was really just Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman kept being published, and the rest of the superheroes weren't selling, and of course the comics code and all that stuff. But they started just not emailing. They started mailing. They would literally come up with zines and stuff, or get their letters in the letters columns of comics and say, this is my address. Write to me if you're a fan of this comic. We'll be buddies. Which led to a lot of horrible crimes. But anyway, no. But no, that was the birth of Fandom. And yes, those conversations have to have happened. But luckily, a lot of people saw this is still a great story, and I like that new costume. That's a cool design. I'll get to know them. This is something I was thinking about because watching the trailer, which I've watched many times. I like that you sent it to me as if I didn't already have it memorized, Chad. One thing I've liked, and this has been going on since the 80s when comics were growing up, is that they finally, DC specifically, said, shouldn't we give them personalities? I love DC, and we watched Super Friends as we were kids and that kind of stuff. When we were growing up in the Bronze Age, Batman could be grumpy, but he wasn't. He was defined by his origin, but he wasn't, as we see him now, as like the darkly brooding guy. He was still like palling around with Superman, like going, hey, friend. And you're like, yeah. DC, they didn't have personalities. They had great concepts and powers, but you read the Silver Age, and when Barry and Hal are talking, and then over here is Ray, the Atom, comes in, they're all exactly the same personality. They're nice guys. It was later that they decided, let's flesh them out and make them people, which Marvel had already pretty much been doing. It was the Marvel style to, not really go psychological, but they're like, yeah, Peter Parker is a different person than Ben Grimm. It's like, okay, they have personalities. So yes, Hal Jordan became, because he was always just like, I'm the best Lantern and I'm a stalwart. And then they later decided maybe he has an edge where it is not just fearlessness, but he's a bit of a daredevil. And that does tie into him being a test pilot.
And we see that in this trailer. We see the recklessness.
Oh, I know. I know. Which, and I was sitting there going, and that's all from the work that's been done. That is now status quo Hal Jordan. I don't know in this show if he's actually held up to be like a Great Lantern at all, but he's clearly like, he's a cocky son of a bitch. And the thing that we've always needed was him saying fuck a lot. And in the trailer, he says it like 3 times. So I'm like,
the thing, okay. we commented on this when the really brief teaser came out for HBO's upcoming shows. It showed 10 seconds of this, and it's them saying, you see him talking to the car, and you commented on that he has got sort of a Southern accent now, which was so it's kind of cool because he was never really given a distinctive accent. In the comics, you can't really do that unless it's mentioned.
Yeah.
But one thing I really liked in this expanded version of this footage is where he says, You're just a fucking substitute teacher.
You're just a fucking substitute teacher.
Yeah.
The way he says it reminds me of Paul Lynde a little bit. It's like, you're just a fucking substitute teacher.
Faster than a speeding bullet.
That's great.
Are you saying there's some underpinnings to Hal Jordan? No.
But that is the recklessness, because he's like, oh, you want to, okay, here, bye, and forcing him to learn how to do constructs to save his life, apparently.
Yeah. Or just grab the ring and say, bubble, whatever. It's like, save
whatever it is.
Shield.
I'm assuming the car gets destroyed because the next time we see him in a car, it's a different car. It's like a smaller, compact car.
I like this trailer, which essentially starts kind of the same way as that 10 seconds thing, but I like seeing that we get the next thing, which is John has had to walk, and he finds there's like a roadside cafe, and Hal Jordan just clapping,
having a beer and a sandwich or something. Yeah,
and he's like, I could have died. He goes, well, you wanted me to train you, so I'm training you. You're like,
tough
all
shit,
right,
buddy. Whatever it is.
Tough shit. I like the dynamic, and I know they're going for this on purpose. I do wonder what his legacy is. You heard the big controversy over Daniel Lindelof's. It's not a controversy, but people responding to, he was on a podcast. I think sort of a not meant to be too serious sort of comedy podcast, but they're interviewing him and talking about lanterns, and his whole thing is, when I had the idea, it was like, the thing is, Green Lantern, calling someone a Green Lantern. He goes, it's so stupid. So he says that. And of course, everyone goes on and is like, again, that's my impression. But here's the thing. Even when I wrote my Green Lantern script, like in 1989 or whatever, what I was trying to think of is rationalizing some of these big, dumb comic book concepts. In my script, I had them being called the Lantern Corps. They are lanterns. The idea of putting green in front is, I get where he's coming from. In my script, I don't know if it'll be the same in the show, but Hal Jordan's the only one who's ever been called Green Lantern, and it was by the press. It's like, that's just something they come up with. They call him the Green Lantern. And he says Green Lantern in the trailer.
He does.
The Green Lantern's oath is to protect people.
Hal Jordan, Green Lantern.
So it's like, what are we complaining about? Honestly?
So he's calling himself Green Lantern probably because other people did.
Guy Gardner called himself Green Lantern as well.
Yes.
I'm a Green Lantern, lady.
So maybe that's sort of the Earth thing. Yeah. But literally the Owens, the Guardians, they're probably just called lanterns. They don't need to go, green.
Yeah.
You're just the lanterns.
Yeah. I don't see that being an issue. I understand why some people are complaining.
When they bring up the yellow lanterns and red lanterns, if they go there, then they will probably have to kind of go, well,
sure.
The emotional spectrum is the whole thing and all that.
But this being a teaser, the so-called teaser, they are deliberately, quite obviously teasing us that there's no green in the teaser, right? Yeah. And literally, there's just a second of it as his ring is powering up at the very end of it, as he's interrogating that guy. So obviously, we're going to have green in the show. I don't think they're not going to have green. But this is the one thing that other people are complaining about that I kind of agree with, just because it's like, really? And I'm trying to withhold judgment because we mentioned that we don't know whose suit that is that's in the closet or what iteration of suit that is.
Other than him training John, we don't know what the story is.
But it is, again, a dingy, drab desaturated version of a suit. It's like, really? Are we doing this again? I thought we were embracing colors now. Like, what is this about?
I know similar ideas.
It's a little annoying seeing that. It's like, come on.
There also, this is all speculation. That's what we do. Let's say that that's the way it looks in the closet. Then you put it on and the ring powering it up, and then maybe there's green light all over it. Who knows?
We don't know. Yeah.
I think it's always a struggle to interpret these superhero costumes in real world. But you look at Superman, and again, James Gunn demanded this. I mean, and decided with David Cornsweet, like, okay, the trunks do work. But Mr. Terrific looks exactly like Mr. Terrific.
Yeah.
Hawk Girl, except for the fact she's wearing the, Maxwell Lord.
Those corporate suits, yeah. Right.
The helmet and all, it's dead on. Guy Gardner has the bowl gun. So, I mean, they seem not to be too worried about it. And I don't know why Lanterns would swerve unless James Gunn basically said to the showrunners, you do you, like whatever you want to do. And maybe they did say for ours, it's going to be this weird burnished, like brass breastplate thing with a classic. It's got the Green Lantern symbol where it should be. And there's green in it, but it's all kind of murky. I did look at it close enough to see that it does have underneath all that stuff is the black. So there is black underneath. So brass, some green, and then black under there. And I'm like, those are the classic colors. There are white gloves. The thing I've always loved about the Green Lantern design, I got to say, I'm not sure who designed the costume for Hal for the original or the Silver Age Green Lantern, but the Flash was Carmine Infantino, one of the big hot shots at DC at the time. And if I could see it being both of his designs, because those are classic and very different from Golden Age. The sleekness of the Flash, where it's just one bodysuit and it's basically all red, but these lightning things and the yellow boots. Awesome. Green Lantern, I like the fact that it's off kilter. You would think that it would be black and green and just the white there. But giving him white gloves, but his boots are green, this is just from an art perspective. I love the fact that he has the white gloves because that makes it really stand out when especially when there's like the aura of green around it and then the beam shooting out. It's just focal. Your eyes are drawn there. It's like the mask is green, the boots are green, black. And then it's like, but those white gloves, it just works. So if he doesn't have gloves, then I'm walking. I will just literally turn off my TV, open the window. This is pretty heavy, but I will shove the TV out of the window and then I'll walk.
So again, we don't know what that suit is. If it looks like it's like it's more than one suit. Like they're on mothballs. They've been sitting in the closet for, and they're not wearing their suits in these scenes, which could be because they're undercover. But the only time that we see Hal Jordan identifying himself as Hal Jordan Green Lantern is when he's interrogating that guy in a room.
It's weird because I don't, again, it'll explain it. I'm sure we'll have it explained. Maybe when Guy came in and then Hal's like, great. Maybe
he's been retired for a while. Yeah.
But you have the voiceover of the sheriff lady like going, I know you are some kind of bigwig.
Yeah.
So it's like, has the Earth just like forgotten its first Green Lantern? And the guy he's interrogating is like, who are you? Yeah, granted, he had a mask. Maybe. We don't know.
He probably did. That's my guess, is that he's coming back and he's just not wearing his old suit because he's over it.
He has the Green Lantern ring. That's the thing. In the comics, again, the cheesy, great Silver Age stuff, it's always on his finger, but when he's not in costume, it's invisible.
Oh,
people can see it, but it's there. Which is silly because he's holding hands with his girlfriend. Why does she go, wait, what is that down there?
Yeah, what is this?
Carol Ferris is like, there's something. That's weird. That's not your finger. There's something on top of it. Anyway, that's questions they never bothered to ask in the comics.
One of the things that you and I were talking about when you first sent that to me and we were chatting back and forth a little bit, that I mentioned that it's kind of funny that John Stewart asked him, did you ever talk to the Lanterns? He goes, I'm the only human. They're all aliens, and one of them's a squirrel.
I'm sorry. One of them's a fucking squirrel. Because again, Hal Jordan loves He loves Paul Lynde. He loves old Hollywood Squares episodes. One of the
and we said, so what? He's just discounting Guy Gardner as a human being. It occurred to me, which would be in character for between the two of them, for Hal to throw a shade at Guy. But it occurred to me watching this again that the trailer is probably obviously the dialogue is heavily edited. What's possible is like when John asked him that, there's a bunch of different scenarios I was imagining. Well,
John could go, what about
edit out
that Guy Gardner?
Yeah, wait, what? Guy Gardner's not a human, and Hal could go. Psh.
Yeah, it could be a diss.
What's also possible is that the dialogue started off like, well, apart from Guy, I'm the only human. They could have cut that bit out.
Yeah. There's also the possibility similar. I mean, it's all about we'll find out. But there's the possibility that what if Guy is Earth's Green Lantern, but basically doesn't consider himself part of the Corps? What if he doesn't
He said he's part of the Green Lantern Corps.
Oh, that's right.
The kind of alien threat I was commandeered by the Green Lantern Corps to protect this planet against.
What's interesting about just this trailer, just this teaser, with so little of the superheroics that we see, and I assume it's going to be very street level, as they keep saying, but maybe we get, at the end of the last episode, like, all right, now you've been trained, now you get to go meet the little blue dudes or whatever. I'm down for that shit. But let's say that the superheroics are downplayed because we know Guy shows up. It does feel right now like the gun world that he created, it's heightened comic book world. So doing something really grounded, trying to see that Guy Gardner walk into even what we've seen, 2.5 minutes, seeing Guy Gardner walk into that to be like, oh, what?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he won't be in his uniform either. Maybe he'll show up in his street clothes and be like, oh, what's up, Jordan?
I'm guessing it'll be like a couple of scenes.
Is this a new kid?
Because this is the original origin of John Stewart, right? Is that Guy is injured. So Hal is brought in to train him because Guy can't do it and they need another Green Lantern. Yeah. So I'm guessing that's what happens here. Some people are saying maybe Guy died. There's no way that Gunn would have Nathan Fillion's character killed off that quickly.
Do you want to hear my dark theory?
What's that?
That Hal dies in Lanterns.
A lot of people are
I mean, because literally he says one of the lines is like, "You get the job when I die."
Right.
And
which also hints that he hasn't been in retirement. That maybe he's been off doing other shit. Protecting other parts of the sector.
That's the thing that they obviously the problem is in DC Comics now have 85 Green Lanterns that are all from Earth, and you're like, isn't it supposed to be one per space sector, and we have 8 or whatever? So they would do that a lot, especially with Kyle Rayner, who gets a lot of, I don't know if he gets a lot of hate, he doesn't, but everyone's like, oh, he was just a stand-in for a while. He was the only Lantern for a while, but when Hal came back and they made him good again, and they've got Guy and they've got all, they basically were like, Kyle, you're now called this, and now you go over and you're going to take care of things in space. Okay. Bye, guys. And he had his own, series, being his own dude, and had just completely space adventures, which, that makes sense. And the Green Lantern Corps comic, I've always loved the idea of the Corps. So that, I mean, I know in this show we're not going to get Chip. They'll talk about things like that. One of them's a big carrot guy. He's literally a carrot. And there's one that's a squirrel. There's one that's a big diamond. I mean, all that kind of stuff. But I love it, which means just open the world at some point. Maybe there's a Lanterns movie where John is with the Corps and we get classic, all these aliens. I fucking love it. The idea of a space police force. Mm-hmm. Great concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stolen from the Lensman series of sci-fi novels. A lot of the concepts that informed the Silver Age, Julie Schwartz and a lot of the people at DC and over at Marvel were early science fiction fans. So they stole some ideas. E.E. Doc Smith wrote the Lensman series, and it was about an Earthman who becomes part of a intergalactic police force who are called the Lensmen, and they have it's not a ring, but the lens is like an all-purpose weapon thing, and it can shoot rays and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it's Green Lanterns.
Yeah.
Anyway, so on the whole, I really like the trailer, and I like the feel. And Kelly MacDonald can do no wrong, by the way. She's the sheriff.
Okay.
She's the sheriff, by the way. That
Who
show
apparently has a history with
yes.
He says that apparently you're some kind of, I know you're some kind of hotshot or whatever, but he says later, he's like, man, she really hates you. He says, it's the way she hates me.
It's the way she hates my guts.
Like,
yeah. It's like, that's cool. I mean, they may not have met, but maybe it's just sort of like they're vibing.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if Hal's ever been to this town before. By the way, the hard traveling heroes, people have to keep bringing up the idea of our galactic space cop walking amongst the normal people of small towns. That was a huge part of the revitalization of that character in the 70s was Green Lantern and Green Arrow. Green Arrow, who's a buddy of Hal's. So Oliver and Hal are best friends. But the whole thing in the 70s was you spend too much time in space. You don't know what's real anymore. And I'm of the people. It's like, yeah, I'm a liberal and hate all these fat cats and the people, the politicians and the bureaucrats who get away with everything. And he's basically like, I challenge you to just come with me. Let's go find America. It's very 1970s. But it's them in plain clothes in a truck, and they travel cross country. And it lasted not even a full year of the comics, but it is a classic storyline where they, and occasionally with Black Canary, who is Oliver's, love. And they just travel and they meet people on the road. And then, of course, they find corruption or even alien plots, but still in small towns. And it's like, okay, now we suit up. Now we do the stuff that we do.
Well, what's interesting, you saw that Sinestro is cast for this show too. Did you see that?
Yes.
So
yes,
that's
and
interesting.
People are speculating that the dude who gets interrogated, I don't know if he's, I didn't look at the cast list, but people are going, maybe he's Black Hand.
Oh,
who's another classic Green Lantern villain.
Well, and there's an interesting thing too, which may or may not be related, but when it looks like at some point John Stewart gets captured and he's being interrogated, and they put some weird alien thing to his head, and he's like, and there's like this yellow energy in it.
Oh, yes. It
looks like a staple gun.
Yeah, I didn't detect any yellow in it.
But, there's yellow light.
Oh.
So whether that's relevant or not, I'm guessing that, apparently the villain they're fighting is some kind of alien entity. Maybe he works for Sinestro. Maybe that's what's going on. So
I mean, one thing I will appreciate and do appreciate is if, let's say, this is Hal in getting close to retirement or whatever, that means that they don't have to do the whole thing of the Sinestro origin as well.
He already knows him.
Yeah. So in other words, I'm glad when they don't, because the new hotshot Green Lantern will be John Stewart, which is fine. I love John Stewart, but I like that they won't make Sinestro his guy. Like, I was also trained, but in other words, all that history does exist. So Sinestro is already head of the Yellow Corps, and he's got the yellow ring and he's been the bad guy. So we don't have to go through that. I hate when they go, you may be the child of Batman, but I'm the Joker and I'm brand new. No, Dad fought you like 1,000,000 years ago and you're old. You should be old now. So I hate when they get repurposed. I was joking with John that they should do something where if they just want to throw Easter eggs to all the nerd fans, there should be a scene where someone sneaks up behind Hal with a baseball bat and tries to hit him. And then he goes, Wood, that's the other guy. An Alan Scott reference, because his weakness wasn't yellow, it was wood. It's still the dumbest thing. I love Golden Age. It's just nonsense. It's like, this ring is the most powerful thing in the universe. The only thing that can affect it is, well, a pencil. A pencil would be bad. Toothpick, that'd fuck me up. That would fuck me up. I am cautiously excited. It looks very good.
I think it's gonna be great.
And I think the casting is great. Kyle Chandler may be overselling the, like, I'm a cocky son of a bitch, but at the same time, he looks like a Hal Jordan, like a latter day Hal Jordan. And he's in great shape too.
Yeah.
I like him. And as far as Aaron Pierre, everything I've ever seen that guy in tops. And I like the fact that in order to make this not a buddy comedy, but they have to be different personalities. I like that John is very serious all the way through it. The whole thing where he goes, this is about saving people, helping people. And he goes, and I'm better than that. Better at that.
You are right.
And that could be. They're going to probably play up that Hal is the guy that goes after the big stuff and is excited, will throw himself into the sun and fight, huge monsters. But maybe he's not the best, like looking out for, victims and things like that.
Yeah.
I would prefer all Green Lanterns to be equally heroic. And that's, But if you have to make differences, Guy Gardner's an egotist who's all about his ego. And that's the thing. Hal's the cocky guy who looks at big picture. And if John is the guy who's empathetic and is really trying to be a champion of people, if that's the way they break them down, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I do want all the Green Lanterns to be distinct, individuals, because otherwise it's like you put anyone in the suit. I could be Green Lantern. You don't want that.
Well, and that this is the buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
There's going to be, because Hal Jordan is essentially like Nick Nolte's character in 48 Hours now. There's going to be an arc for his character in this series where he becomes a little less gruff towards the end.
And also he will realize the strengths of John's approach, and he'll be like, you are good. You're ready for it. Okay. Right. Now let's go meet the blue dudes. Yeah. I'm really pushing for Guardians. If I don't get some Guardians.
I bet you we get a little glimpse of them, maybe very briefly.
Maybe. So they are seemingly very proud of how little sci-fi they've put in their show about the lanterns. And I'm like, that's maybe not the biggest brag. And I do understand there are people who are so excited that there's any Green Lantern related anything that they feel a little like, guys, I mean, if you want to do that kind of a story, do it after you give us classic Green Lantern.
I kind of understand the angle if they're thinking about the bigger picture and the bigger, wider audience. To kind
and
of
also making it a cop show will really cement that idea, because that's what sets him apart as a superhero. He is one of many, and he's a cop who has bosses and things like that, which he doesn't agree with. And it's like, I mean, literally, that's a cop show. It's like, you've been called into the captain's office. I can just imagine like Hal Jordan going in, and there's a little blue Guardian dude going on, buy the book, Jordan. And it's like, you guys are going to give me a ulcer. That kind of stuff. Is like, that's what I want. I know that's not going to happen. But so I like the approach. I think the showrunners, I mean, you can't really complain. Those guys know what they're doing. And I'm going to give them a chance to cook, and we'll see how it turns out.
In the meantime, just recently, just to add on to this, we found out, I don't know if this is really confirmed, but apparently Jon Stewart's going to appear in Man of Tomorrow as well.
Aaron Pierre is officially on the cast list of Man of Tomorrow.
That's cool.
Which is great. Yeah. Again, I'm all about the universe and the building out and having a Green Lantern in the Superman film, which is actually, as he keeps going, it's not a Superman film. Okay, Lex Luthor film. Doesn't matter. I'm totally down for that shit.